Hi, this is Julia Davis of Yoga Teachers Forum and Pinchli Yoga, and I'm here with Kate Codrington, and I'm really excited to be talking with you, Kate, about all things menopause. How are you today?
Hot.
Hot. You're actually hot because
In
the
all
weather's
ways.
boiling.
It's also 35 degrees out there, so yeah.
So I've known you for a while, Kate, and I love you and all the work that you do around menstruality and menopause and perimenopause. And I find you humorous and down to earth. And I'd love to actually find out, but before we went live, you mentioned that maybe you began your journey through body psychology. Is that right? Is that the right term to use? What's the right term to use?
Back in the 1990s, I trained as a body psychotherapist.
And what does that entail?
What does that entail? Well, that entails understanding, letting the body speak, essentially, and sort of maybe allowing subconscious, the unconscious to speak through the body. So that might be movement. I also used to use touch work with psychotherapy, which is obviously a hot topic, and massage. And we also used which is absolutely unique as far as I know, a stethoscope to listen to the gut sounds. So we would listen to the gut as a guide to the parasympathetic nervous system, to absolutely let the body talk and listen to what happens. And it's pretty magical stuff. And back, this was I did two trainings. One was with Gerda Boyson in Acton in London, and the other one was with Chiron. But Gerda had been working since, I think she'd come up with her theories since the 1950s. So she was this amazing pioneer she was Reichian influenced. So she was talking about energy and the way energy moves in the body and about orgasm in the 1960s and 70s. And she was this middle-class lady from Oslo, And what I see now in 2020 is that all the kind of, your bog standard body-mind stuff has derived from her work.
Yeah.
But because she was a woman, and also the theory, she didn't write the groundbreaking, she never wrote the groundbreaking book.
Yeah.
And because she was a woman, and because her work was absolutely about the feminine, it was about flow, it was about allowing, she would teach about how to be a therapist position of being a midwife.
Yeah.
Allowing and letting. So very different from her contemporaries, which was about forcing and breaking the muscle armor and all this kind of stuff. And she's not been recognized, which is quite long-winded. I didn't expect to be talking about Gerda this morning, but I think that absolutely informs what I understand about menopause and what menopausal bodies need, which is allowing and patience and kindness.
Yeah.
Of course, the interesting thing for yoga teachers who want to understand about how to meet their menopausal clients and how to meet the needs of their menopausal clients is that every menopausal body will need that kindness in a different way.
Wow, I'm glad I asked that question. Absolutely.
It's a good question.
Yeah. And it's good to know, where your roots come from. I'd love to know as well, which came first for you as far as menstruality is concerned. I mean, it sounds like there was a level of that in the work that you were already doing. But did you come to the kind of the Red School menstruality work first, or were you already practicing yoga? Or did they come together?
I encountered yoga when I was pregnant with my first child, so that was 17 years ago now. And I went to kind of hatha classes, and it's been part of my life ever since. So I'm a massive fan, and actually it was two. I don't practice daily because that's not true. I wasn't practicing this morning, but I have a daily practice. I work with a sort of yin-yang combination of teachers. So I work with the wonderful Claire Murphy, who teaches very feminine, mindful, experiential-based movement, and also Lisa Morris, who teaches Iyengar, so it's very male and very straight. And between the two, I kind of roll around the floor when I'm at home.
Yeah, I think that's lovely. The idea that you go to the
what does my knee need right now? Ooh,
yeah,
very kind of indulgent and rolling around the floor.
I love rolling. Yeah, I totally, you know, it's lovely. Sometimes you just need that kind of strident, powerful, you know, like sometimes, you know, like I feel the force, I feel the power, and then sometimes you just need to chill out and roll around. So
well, you know, you need as menopausal people, and as all people really, we need boundaries. We need to feel our strength, and we need to feel our connection with the earth.
Yeah.
And we need to feel our edges. God, we need to feel our edges and know where our boundaries are and know where our edges are. And that might be in the bone, or it might be in the muscle. But unless we are aware of our boundaries, we cannot release and let go. And letting go is one of the primary things that has to happen in menopause.
Yeah.
So it's a really subtle dance. I see with my clients, and I feel in myself, and I see with other people, that there's balance between feeling the strength. So yeah, you have to find your strength in your legs and your back to hold yourself together, so that you can then fall apart. Because if you then fall apart, then you know.
Yeah. And I know that you've trained in women's health therapy yoga as well. So what took you on that path? I know you started in pregnancy, and how did you find that, and what were the choices around that?
Well, I think probably I didn't expect this to be therapy on a Monday morning. I think actually my journeys in yoga and all the trainings have been about discovering how the hell to be a woman in this weird woman body and this weird womb business. And so yeah, I did come into yoga when I was pregnant, and then the women's health therapy course, that was really very much about perimenopause and my perimenopause, and at a different rite of passage in my life. Yeah. And you know, sort of checking in, well, what's happening, what the hell's going on here, you know. And being really needing that time, that kind of beautiful body focused time, to really feel into, well, what does this feel like, and what does this need right now? And that's another thing that I know that you see in your menopausal clients, that there's, as women come into their authority, and menopause is a process of coming into your authority. The question, it's not about telling them what to do. It's about giving them space to inquire into what they need themselves, and it's like giving them back their authority.
Yeah, and I know that you trained with Red School. I'd love you to talk to that, but maybe also to talk to that and where menopause fits into that whole story, because there's a lot of talk around and amazing work around menopause at the moment. And it would be really good to see how that fits into the whole picture, because we don't just rock up with our periods having stopped, not sure when we're going to get the next one, and then boom, there's something going on for us as women. Like you said, you mentioned that you went to the women's health therapy training when you were experiencing perimenopause. So I'd love for you to kind of talk to maybe how you chose to dive deep into menstruality, and kind of how the pearls of that understanding of menopause have come out of that.
Well, I think I've no idea. I'm still not sure why I did it. You know, I went off to learn about menstruality, about menstruation, when I was not menstruating. But what happened was, I had a very strong calling. I had no doubt that this was the right thing to do.
So you were already in menopause when you decided to do that?
I was in perimenopause, and I was like going, what the hell am I doing? This is insane. But I think what it was in menopause for me and for many other people, your intuition just comes through.
Yeah.
It comes through us, you know, it sounds a bit grandiose, but it wasn't so much about my personal choice and my personal journeys. It came through me, and that's what I needed to do.
Yeah.
And so I learned a lot about menstruation, which was exceedingly painful because I was in the grief of not having that cycle. So it was like being taken to a banquet and not being allowed to eat anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But that is also an essential part of the process. We have to grieve. We have to learn to grieve what we are losing before we can move on.
Yeah, and there may well be women who are coming along to be with you. We've got the workshop happening on Wednesday, the 14th of October from 1 till 4. And there may well be women who are entering perimenopause themselves or menopause. And it's funny, when you initiated into menstruality, so much of it feels, or it felt to me, so clear that I couldn't imagine how I didn't know this stuff before. But there are plenty of women out there who haven't been given the gift of menstruality.
Yeah.
So at any time we're given that gift.
My intention with this workshop is to anyone can come, blokes, people of all identifications and colours, and everybody can come.
Yeah.
And what we'll be investigating is the seasonal structure. It's so intuitive and so obvious, as you say, once you open your mind to it, that you intuitively understand the implications of this.
Yeah.
So it will be, you certainly don't need to have a background in menstruality to enjoy the workshop.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was talking to another menstruality friend of mine, and she asked the question, how early do you introduce menstruation and ideas of period to young girls? And I said, at birth, like at the beginning.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Because if you're somebody who is experiencing cycles or perimenopause or menopause or any aspect of the women's life cycle, then it makes sense for that to be recognized and understood from everyone around us, whatever their gender, whatever their gender bias, whatever their age.
Yeah.
Because it not being, it being something that's age specific or gender specific makes it secret in some way.
Yeah.
And that seems bonkers.
Yeah. And actually understanding that having a seasonal awareness is really helpful for everyone, whether they have a womb or not, because you start to understand when to rest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're all exhausted.
Yeah. It's 32 degrees today in London, so yeah, totally. I'd love for you to talk to the way in which menstruality and yoga connects. I think you have a little bit already talking about the yin and the yang and the active and the passive. But maybe if you could talk to that a little bit more. So maybe people can have an understanding of, as yoga teachers and therapists, and the workshop is open to all people who've really got an interest in it. And if you are a therapist or a yoga teacher, there will be specific pearls that you will get out of it that you can take straight into your teaching. But I'd love for you to just talk to that kind of marriage of menopause and yoga.
Sure. Well, I think it comes down to a seasonal awareness. So if you imagine spring and summer as being, say, from teenage 20s into the mid 30s, late 30s years, these are times when of increasing yang qualities. So as people were moving out into the world and expanding out into the world. So in a sort of more summary frame of mind, you will have more energy available to you. It will be a more external way of being, like I want to learn how to, I don't know, stand on my head, to do a headstand, or I want to learn how to do, you will be more kind of drawn towards that kind of outward thing. And as you turn more towards autumn and into winter, we naturally become more introspective and more inward, and the yin is more emphasized gradually as we move towards autumn. So autumn, classically, we would see as perimenopause, and winter as more deep menopause process. So, this is an archetypal pattern, okay? So this does not mean that everybody in these phases of lives will want these things. Clearly,
you can be exhausted in your midsummer with, if you've got children or busy work, or yeah.
So this is an archetypal thing. But in perimenopause, we need more opportunity to look inward and more opportunity to go slow. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we don't want to do kind of big warrior stuff. That's me. That's my practice. It doesn't necessarily mean that we don't want that, but that it has to be balanced, and more balanced with more introspective stuff. So that might be more self-inquiry. That might be checking into the subtlety of, well, what actually does my hip want to do today? Not what can it do today? What would be nourishing today? And that can be, that can be a 30-second inquiry in the middle of a class. That doesn't mean you have to lie on the floor for the whole of the class if you're working with menopausal people.
Yeah.
So it's about, once you understand the seasons, then you understand, I think, the quality. That's it. Yes, it's the quality. It's like the weather of the seasons, the weather of that season of life.
Yeah.
And by flowing with that weather and flowing with that quality of energy and tuning into that, you will then, within ourselves, you will then be able to access for your clients what they need. And I'm very much in this workshop that we're doing. It's an experiential workshop, and it's an embodied workshop. So what I'll be offering is a space for yoga teachers and therapists to explore the seasons within themselves, so they can feel in their bodies what it is like. So if you're moving into winter, say, you might possibly, for example, feel the softness in your legs and feel your drift to lie on the floor. And feel the quality of how that feels within you. And then you will notice that in your own practice. So it will nourish you as an individual as well, but it will also give you a clue as to what might be happening for your clients.
Yeah, I've walked through those cycles with you. It's a very powerful experience.
It's very powerful, and it looks simple from the outside, but it's also energy medicine. So what also happens, because we progress around the whole seasonal cycle, is that it also creates a sort of energy medicine, kind of akin to family constellations, and you'll find that things move, things shift and heal within your cycle. Oh, and I forgot the best bit. The best bit is that we walk into second spring. So what is almost never talked about is postmenopause. It's a bit like birth. We get so focused. On that bit that we forget about postnatal life, when you're on the other side. And it's the same with menopause. We get so focused on the struggle and the shift that we're not educated, and we forget that actually there's a whole new cycle, there's a whole new spring that happens the other side, if you can rest. If you are resourced as you move into second spring, in all way, in the best possible way, then you have a whole new cycle of new life and delight and creativity and fertility, of creative fertility on the other side. So in this walking the seasons that we're going to do, you will get that, and you will feel that in yourself, and you'll go, oh yeah. And then you can take that to your students and say, yeah, but there's that. And that, and then doesn't become about a struggle to survive and a struggle to cope with something, but a process of healing to arrive at a new cycle. And that, you know, that's a total reframing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to start. That was a long sentence.
No, that's good. I'm
going to stop now.
I mean, you know, there were so many beautiful things in there about the second spring and about the need for rest and about post-menopausal creativity, and about if you give yourself a chance to rest, then it's amazing how creative you can be, but if you don't, how burnt out you could potentially be. There was, you know, there was lots there. I wanted to talk to a couple of things. One is there's the physiology of menopause, but also there's the psychology of menopause. So there's what's happening physically in the body, and there's what's happening up here. And also there's the sail through. I find it quite funny. Some people say, I sailed through menopause. When I divorced my husband at the age of 53, it's like, oh, you did? So there was a physical sailing through, but there was a major life change. But or there could be a complete sail through, and that, you know, there's the person whose periods stopped dead at the age of whatever, 45, and that was it for them, and there was none of the gradation. So there's the physiological, there's the emotional, and there's the sailor ways.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't know whether you want to talk to any of
so much to say. I mean, there is a huge variation. There is an enormous variation from, you know, just period stopping and la the sail through, as you beautifully named it, and a great degree of suffering as well. And it can go on for not very long or a very long time. And why does this happen? Nobody really knows, I think. I have a couple of punts, and one is that if you are worn out, if you are exhausted, and if you are burnt out, it's going to be much worse. I was. And it, you know, it's to do with our culture. Our culture, you know, you're in your 40s and you maybe you have a family, maybe you don't, but you certainly want to be out there and creating stuff and doing interesting work and supporting people and, you know, making shit happen. But that doesn't take account of the fact that there's going to be a big rite of passage coming up and you need to rest. So if you, I mean, Alexandra says this, if you approach the gates of menopause exhausted, then you're in for a rough ride.
Yeah, Alex, I know you know who we're talking about, and I know who we're talking about, but Alexandra
Pope. Oh, sorry. Yes, Alexandra Pope of Red School. Yes, who wrote with Shani Hugo Wurlitzer, who wrote Wild Power, and Alexandra is my.
It's nice that they did write the book, because you were talking about people who didn't, and they have.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's it's wonderful because everyone has access to, you can borrow Wild Power from the library in audio, so it is accessible to everyone, and it's a really useful template to have as you emerge into perimenopause and menopause, or earlier on, you know, if you haven't experienced, you know, the menstrual cycle awareness and you're emerging into perimenopause, it's still useful. Because you might have, it's good to know what the experience may have been, and you may have daughters or sisters or friends or anyone who's menstruating. I love the idea. I remember I asked on a forum about using female body parts, like talking about breasts and vaginas in yoga teaching. And a man came back asking lots of questions, and he was really interested in how to do that. And it would be wonderful if men felt super comfortable talking about menstruality in their yoga class, talking about the fact that women might be having their period, and talking about practices that are beneficial to women experiencing menopause if they know that they've got them in their classes. It's a truism that 80% of people who are attending a yoga class are women. So why not talk to their needs?
Yeah, I'd love to have some men rock up for this workshop. It'd be great.
Yeah, yeah. So do you have any final kind of pearls that you'd like to share
I was
with
just getting started, Julia.
Oh! Do you have any initial pearls that you would like to share?
Well, another thing to say, so that's one layer of, that's the first layer. The other thing, which I will leave as a little a teaser,
Yeah,
for you, is that there are also phases, 3 phases of menopause that my colleague at Womankind, Leora Lieboff, and I have developed, which will help you understand the different psychological phases of menopause as you approach from the autumn, through the autumn and in, towards second spring. And so you will also have an embodied sense not only of the seasons, but also of these menopausal phrases. And this is something quite unique that Leora and I have developed. So it's pretty damn special.
okay, so
that's my pearl.
If we were special afternoon with Kate, that we really take into our own lives as people,
yeah,
into our own yoga practice as people. And I find that practices that are beneficial to various groups tend to be very beneficial to people who aren't in those groups too.
Yeah.
So there are practices that I do that are specifically useful for X, but I use them because I love them. And if that's something that appeals to you, to have something that you can take away for yourself, that you can take away to share with others, and you can feel like you've got a much more of an embodied understanding of where menopause is, then I can think of nothing better than spending, I really can't. Kate's an amazing person to spend time with. Yeah. A workshop with Kate is a really fabulous experience. And you can put that date in your diary. All our events are taking place via Zoom.
Tell us the date again, Julia, because I've already forgotten it. Was it the...
You've forgotten when it is. It is the 14th of October.
14th of October at 1
till 4 p.m.
1 till 4. I'll be there.
Yes, that'll be good. You can find all the details for the event under the menopause event. If you look either for the menopause event in Yoga Teachers Forum, or if you look for Kate's profile, if you want to find out a little bit more about Kate, we've got a little profile of her under teachers. You can find more about Kate and more about that event. And this is Kate's already been with us before and shared menopause work with us. And she's a fountain of knowledge. I love the work that you do, Kate. And there will be opportunities to be with Kate through the Yoga Teachers Forum going forward as well. But October the 14th is the one diary now. So thank you so much for your time with us today, Kate.
Thank you, Julia. That was lots of fun.